Welcome ladies and gentlemen to my video tutorial on perspective in drawing for artists. My name is Ian Strange, also known as Ianardo, and I specialise in pencil and crayon drawing. Learning perspective drawing is more science than art and relates to how shapes look to us compared to their actual forms, but with some practice you won't have to do this like complex engineering drawing. Let's start with a simple shape such as a flat fence panel. We know it's really a rectangle, but when viewed from an angle it tapers. If we are taller than the panel, its top edge will be below the horizon and slope this way. If we extend the line to the horizon, we find the vanishing point. All lines that are parallel to this in reality radiate out from the vanishing point. We can see this when drawing the lower edge of the panel. If the panel is taller than we are, then the top slopes down to the vanishing point. The gradients of these lines become steeper if our viewpoint of the panel is from a shallower angle or if we are closer to the panel. Oh, and if some of my vertical lines appear to be leaning over, that is due to the camera perspective, as it is not directly over every part of the page. If we have an object with more depth than a fence panel, such as a building, then the other visible side will have edges tapering to another vanishing point on the horizon. This is known as two-point perspective. I'm not standing on my head for those upper lines. I turn my hand so that I can draw straight lines. I'll explain about straight line drawing a little later. We can expand this sketch to a street scene to show the road, pavements, buildings and street lamps radiating from that central point. Here I'm judging some of the lines without doing too many construction lines. The more practice you get, the easier it becomes to do without any guidelines. Now adding some lampposts. This aerial view of a tall building makes use of three vanishing points, or three-point perspective, one for each dimension. The vanishing points will often be way off the paper somewhere, and so you have to use your judgment to estimate the gradient of each line. It can create quite a nice dramatic look to a composition that grabs a viewer's attention. For more complex shapes you can use construction lines as a rough guide, such as when drawing a large dog. This drawing was done with crayons. As was this train drawing. This is a clear example of a single point perspective with rails, wires, etc. converging within the finished drawing. For pyramidal spires you can use this technique. Here's a spire with a rectangular base sketched out in two-point perspective. Here I am upside down again. My school art teacher used to poke fun at this technique. Draw the two diagonals across the base. Where they meet is the centre of the spire. From there draw a vertical line which gives us the position of the point of the spire. From there you can draw the remaining edges. For a view looking up at a tall cylindrical pillar, its two sides taper to a vanishing point up in the sky. The circular base and top become elliptical in shape, the upper one in this view being closer to a circle than the bottom one because it is further from the horizon in this view. You can do each of these ellipses with construction lines, but it can get very messy by the time you finish and erase them. But here is a quick demonstration of drawing a circle viewed at an angle, such as a bicycle wheel. Sketch out a square in perspective like the fence panel seen earlier. Then draw the two diagonals, and where they cross is the centre of the circle. Now add a line through that centre from the vanishing point, plus a vertical line. Now you can mark the top, bottom, left and right edges of the circle, then sketch in each quadrant freehand. With practice you can do away with some of the construction lines. If you struggle with drawing straight lines, I always rest my hand on the page and draw the line vertically. If the required line isn't vertical, I rotate the page or my hand. Many artists prefer to keep their wrist rigid and instead move their entire arm, maybe using the edge of the table as a guide. To draw longer straight lines, you can view the page at a very shallow angle, which will exaggerate your view of any errors. Here my head is to the left of the camera, looking to the right with my eyes just above the page. Mark out each end of the line, then several points in between, preferably with faint marks, but I've done them darker here for clarity. Then view the page normally and join the dashes. If you are more confident, you can do a single sweeping line guided by the marks. Check the straightness of the line from that shallow viewpoint again. And a more general tip, I prefer to avoid hard pencils even for guidelines or rough outlines. I use a B pencil very lightly, and this rubs out easily if you need to erase it, and also doesn't dent or scratch the paper. As you can see, I use automatic pencils that take refills. This one is 0.9mm thick and also have a 0.3mm version for doing fine details. They both have B leads. I always use soft erasers to avoid smudging, and I keep it clean on a scrap of paper. If you are a beginner, practice perspective by copying photos before progressing to sketching what you see in real life, and then to drawing from memory or imagination. And when you are sitting down and relaxing, have a look at the perspective of everything around you. I don't study other artists, I study the things I draw. Here's a drawing I did of my old classroom as it was in 1977, which was demolished a few years ago. Done largely from memory, it shows a lot of parallel lines drawn in perspective, as well as having to scale the people accordingly. I hope this has helped. If you would like to learn more about drawing with pencils and crayons, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.